your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I am Richard Dugan, Reverend Dr. D, and you know what, folks? It's time to listen in, because it's time to come back to love, because, well, God, folks, it's a healing. It's a path to healing. I was going to say it's a healing path. I don't want to put text on the cover of my guest's book, but Robyn Vogel is my guest, and Robyn, I guess it is. It's time to come back to love, considering, on the one hand, Robyn, what we have been through, I'm going to say the last 10, 11 years, all right? But to be honest with you, what we've just been through in our respective lifetimes, because we've all been challenged throughout. And it's just, and I keep hearing this, that love is not really an emotion. I mean, it is, but it's more than that. First of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
From your perspective, what is love? What is it? And then if you want to use Corinthians, that's fine. If you've got some other perspective on it, I'd love to hear it.
Well, I'm gonna tag team what you just began, and that is that love is a verb. It's actions that we can take, and thus the name of my business and the name of my book and my mantra, Come Back to Love. It really implies that we're taking action and we're taking steps and we're making choices. So for me, that's what love is.
Oh, well, you just mentioned my book.
I did.
You did. Choices, 5 Steps for Life. And you know what's funny? I'm listening to a couple of books on focusing on money, which we won't really get into on this program, but it's funny how in both of them, and one of them was written back in 1910, he talks about the same thing, that, you are where you are financially because of all of the choices you've made up to this point and so forth. And same thing with this other book that was written just recently, or just in the last few years. And love is a choice too. But I will tell you, I grappled with that concept not too long ago. And maybe it was because of my reflections on my first wife and going through a divorce. And wondering, well, where the hell was the love there? Jeez. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, my present wife going through her challenges health-wise, as well as occupationally. She was, this is the way I say it. I won't say the company because she signed I can't believe they required this, an NDA. But she was unceremoniously fired. They will say that she was released due to mistakes. I say she was 72 years of age. She was a liability to the medical facility. So you had to find a way to get rid of her. Mm-hmm. And if she'd been perfect, she'd still be there. We'd still be there. I'm glad we're not. because now we're living in a wonderful place. And I do love it. We came back to love. We are now living a mile high, 5,700 feet above sea level. And believe it or not, we go out to the highway that runs along the ridge of the mountain. We can see the ocean, believe it or not. And it's an hour and a half drive away. Coming back to love. Did we really leave it behind or sort of toss it over our shoulder and focus on something else? Why is it that we're coming back to love from your perspective in your book?
Well, I think we do sometimes toss it aside. Often in partnership, we would rather be right than in love. And that's a question I have often asked a lot of couples that I've worked with over the years, when they're arguing back and forth and kind of having a tennis match about something back and forth and kind of can't stop. It's a moment to pause and say, would you rather be right or would you rather be in love? And that will often, not always, but often kind of shake up the process and shake up in this example, the argument or the polarity that they're dealing with, and give them a chance to pause and say, oh yeah, we have different viewpoints of things. There are always way more than one viewpoint on anything, even if it seems out. No. Ow.
I don't understand. Why is there polarity in our country? We all should be thinking exactly the same thing.
Right.
Now there are a couple of phrases I was thinking of. Happy wife, happy life is one thing that is directed at men specifically.
Yes.
So if she's happy, you're happy because she's happy. But I've also been seeing some very interesting videos being put out by some very, I'm going to say talented men. Not very well known, and I'm trying to get a hold of them because I'd love to have them on the program, who are speaking to the male, I'll call it the male condition. Now, we know the stereotypes on television and in movies, usually rom-coms of the relationship between men and women, whether it's dating, or married and so forth, or just in a relationship, living together, what have you.
Yeah.
And there was one, I don't know if you remember the gentleman, I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head. He played Joey in the series Friends.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was in a new series, he had gray hair and everything. And it was as if he and wife, and even in the Tim Allen Home Improvement, it was the same dynamic. They were always trying to get one up on each other.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here going, huh? How is that a productive dynamic? Just briefly, and then I want you to kind of talk about this. I asked my mother, this has now been about 2 years, is it 2? Maybe 3, since my father passed. And I wanted to ask them both this question, but I missed that opportunity, but it was okay because I was talking to my mother, probably it was around Mother's Day, and I said, Mom, has there ever been a time before Dad's passing where the two of you sat down and you kind of said to each other, I'd like to extend my forgiveness to you for you're doing this and this and this and this and this. How lists are kept and so forth.
Yeah.
And you know what? She said it was it blew me away. She said, no. She said it was only about 2 weeks into our marriage, which was back in the late 50s, when we were having an argument and I was yelling and carrying on and so forth. And he wouldn't yell back. And she said, you're not playing the game. You're supposed to get upset and yell and get and da-da-da. And he didn't want to do it, which is now I know where I got that. And so they sat down and they made an agreement. They said, from now on, if there's ever anything that we are, and they did take responsibility, we are irritated by, all right? I am irritated because Robyn, you have curly hair or whatever. I take responsibility for that. And they said, and we're going to talk about it and we're going to get it out of the way. Now in the 70s, they went through marriage encounter. My mother said that they didn't really need it, but they figured it couldn't hurt.
Everybody was doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
And so when she said that about this agreement they made early on, and another one that they made too, is that if any of their friends started to talk down to them about the other, they would get together and say, hey, so and so said this about you, blah, 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 and, and that kind of thing. And they would clear it between the two of them because that's all that mattered. So that if it ever came up in conversation with somebody else, they wouldn't be surprised. They'd already worked it through with each other and moved on. What about that aspect in terms of coming back to love? And I mean, because for me, my wife will ask me after certain situations, will you please forgive me? She will ask me to forgive her, which I will do, not because it's required, because I need to forgive her, but because it gives her peace of mind. I am not holding a grudge because she did this or that or the other thing. What about that aspect of those kinds of wedges between people in relationships? And it doesn't have to be intimate relationships either. It can be at the workplace, at the water fountain, out in the park where you take your dog and you meet other people and so forth. Can you talk to us about that when we're talking about coming back to love?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to start a little bit from the beginning, and that is that many of us have had trauma in our lives or some kind of crisis early on. And when we've been hurt and our hearts have been broken in whatever way that happens, we get protective of ourselves. And it's a good thing early on when you're in the situation, right? Like I always say, thank God for the protection that my being and my personality created so that I could get through. The thing for me was that my mother died when I was really young, and my father also passed away when I was pretty young. But the initial trauma was really my mom, because I was like 10 years old. And there were ways that I needed to protect myself in order to get through such a, tragedy and a crisis. And I'm really grateful. However, grateful for the protection, that is. However, later on in life, those protections are still present, and they often get in the way or get triggered when we're in intimate relationship. Sometimes they block people from being in intimate relationship because they just feel so, afraid of opening their hearts. And so you asked me earlier, like, what does it mean? Why come back to love? What are we coming back to? And I want to continue this piece with the fact, what I believe is that we are all divine beings, that we come into the world as loving, innocent beings, and things happen to us that create, like I just said, protections and different ways of being in the world that impact us, that may or may not foster an open-hearted connection with ourselves and with other people. And so it does very much feel like a coming back to the divinity of ourselves, or coming back to our innocence, coming back to an open-hearted space that may have, yes, in fact, closed up early in life, or maybe not. Maybe, something happened later on in life and nothing happened early in life, but been through a divorce or some kind of loss, and our hearts get protected. And so there is this, for me, this experience of this like lovely rhythm of just coming back to the heart, coming back to trust, coming back to safety, coming back to love within ourselves. And it is very much a practice, like a meditation, where you're sitting on your cushion and your practice is to come back to the breath or come back to awareness.
Yeah.
There's this repetition, and the repetition actually is very meaningful. It doesn't just bring us back to a space of love and loving kindness and compassion. It also is rewiring the brain to be able to have some reaction, perhaps anger, upset, like you just said, maybe an experience of regret or shame where there may be forgiveness. But the mind gets, and the body rewire itself to actually process that and come back to a place of feeling grounded and connected and in love.
Do you believe that when people argue, regardless of the depth of the relationship, you've heard the statement, oh no, that's good for couples to argue. That's good for people to argue and so forth. It clears the air and so forth. And it's like, I think that it's kind of like stirring up the water. It's one thing if you have a drop or two in the water and the ripples go out and so forth. But it's another thing if you're just slashing away at the water. It's going everywhere. Everybody's getting wet and nothing's really accomplished.
Well, you're talking about two different things.
Okay.
So we're going to separate them out.
All
So there actually is research that shows that couples who don't argue with each other are more apt to separate than couples that do. Why? Because when you're not arguing, you're most likely doing something else. You're most likely people pleasing, trying to please the other, or you're just stuffing down the anger and resentment and frustration and whatever it is, and not expressing yourself, and then not being authentic and not connecting and engaging with your partner.
So if we argue, I can say, well, it's a good thing because, well, we argue, we both have two arms, we both have two legs, and we both have a head. It's just part of the dynamic that actually helps the relationship.
Yeah, it's part of the dynamic of being direct and honest and authentic. I want to make a distinction, though, between that and what you said at the end of your question, which was like just slashing people around and like batting, like there's.
Oh, no, I don't mean abuse. I'm talking about the water itself going everywhere. Go ahead.
Yeah, water. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for like honing on. I didn't mean that either at all. No. Just with energy and words, which, can also be abusive, but that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
But we are talking about fighting where one is blaming and shaming the other. And that, I'm not talking about that kind of arguing, because once you're blaming and shaming your partner, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, you're creating a rift, a separation. Nobody wants to be blamed or shamed. Our natural reaction is to back away or to come forward more aggressively. Either way, not a good situation. So I'm not talking about that anger and that kind of arguing, although that does happen.
Sure.
It takes one person to be conscious enough to say, hold on, wait a minute, let's pause here. Because that's actually not the time to argue. That's the time to go for a walk. That's the time to take out your journal and write. That's the time to call a friend and just say, I just want to dump out these feelings and I just want to, let it rip and then I'll feel better. That's actually not the time to have the conversation with your partner. But when you're in a clear space and you can still share anger and upset in a healthy way, it's healthy because you're being really vulnerable. You're being really honest. And that's what relationships are about.
Robyn Vogel, my guest, the book, Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing. What is the website you would like for people to go to find out more, not only about your book, which I'm sure is available on Amazon, but also find out more about you and the work that you do?
Sure. Comebacktolove.com.
Oh my God, so complicated. I don't know.
So complicated. I know.
Complicate. Hey, folks, we'll be continuing this here on Tell Me Your Story. Reverend Dr. D and Robyn Vogel is my guest, Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing. Now, I think we've already well defined, you've heard the phrase that when you are running to something, you're running from something at the same time. And we've already kind of defined what it is that we're, so to speak, running from or moving away from, because we want to move towards love in our relationships. I grappled, as I was sharing before, with the definition or what it meant to love someone. And like I said, my first divorce thing, did I really love her? Yeah, because I still think about her from time to time. We had a lot of fun together. And I think about those times, obviously more so than the bad times and even what it was that generated the separation. And of course, with my present wife and what has been going through for the last 3 years with her health, which is getting better and better every day since we moved. I think it's the air up here. I think it's the mile high air is what I think it is, which is great. We'll take it. You said that love is a verb, not a noun, and I would lean into that so heavily. I mean, it's like, because I don't know how many people, maybe the in love part is a feeling, we feel a certain way where, exuberant. There was another word. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but anyway, you just feel enthusiastic. You just feel like you're on top of the world. You cannot be around anybody other than the other person. You want to share everything with them and so forth. And there is that phase that then passes, so to speak. or it transforms into the verb. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, you're making a distinction between what I would call new relationship energy
Hmm.
and the kind of exuberance of feeling inside yourself the love that you feel. That's really what we're craving
Oh, I
is
remember the word euphoria. Thank you.
euphoria. Yes, good one. What we're really craving is the feeling, we think we're craving the love that somebody else is providing or bestowing upon us. But what we're really craving, because the only thing we could possibly feel is our own beings, our own selves. What we're really feeling is the love inside ourselves as a result of the reflection of that person's love onto us. So that can feel like euphoria, absolutely, which can, sometimes feel very ungrounded and very exciting. And a lot of people call it NRE, new relationship energy. And that's wonderful. Honeymoon phase, people call it that. And sometimes that lasts a couple of years. Sometimes it lasts only a couple of months. I've worked with couples for 25 years in my practice, and there's a very wide variety of experience with that. Um, and it passes because the newness passes, and because we get into patterns and repetition, and we lose our presence and our perspective.
But
There is a way to hold on to it, but
yeah,
we don't
yeah,
because we're
but that's
human.
normal though with
That's normal. Yeah,
everything in this
completely.
world. Buy a
Yes.
new car. Oh man, it's so cool, and within a few months it's like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
I still like it. I love driving it, but it's, I mean,
Yeah.
it may retain that new car smell for 6 months or a year until eventually, if you've got kids, it fades away faster.
Yeah. For
Uh,
sure.
yeah,
Starts to smell like cheese doodles.
exactly. Among other things.
Yes.
Um, I want to ask you about the dynamics once again, and of course, there's the stereotypes, but there's also these. I've seen some great stuff in regards to how women are described in the way they process, and how men are described and how they process. And I heard something rather interesting just recently because this will affect the dynamic of a relationship. Again, regardless of the depth. And it has to do with, and it was maybe even one of my guests who was talking about this in terms of how the majority of men, specifically, but not exclusively, in the United States, are walking wounded.
Hmm.
All right. Now, again, I don't want to take away from the wounds that women are experiencing with all of the stuff that's been going on the last 10, 12 years and so forth. But the fact is that men are wounded because of the level of expectation that is
Yes.
placed upon them by society. I think about my father all the time, and my mother and he agreed they were going to have a large family. That's what they wanted. There was no sacrifice. I've been asked that. What did your parents sacrifice? And I've interviewed them on this program, and nothing. That we didn't. We wanted a big family,
Mhm.
but in that there's a requirement that you have the wherewithal to be able to provide for the family. That you can
Yeah.
provide the house. You can. I mean, I remember finding out what the 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom house for 8 people that couldn't have been more than 1,000 square feet, maybe 1,200, single level in Phoenix, $28,000 in late 1950. 28,000. When I bought my first house with my first wife in 1993, it was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. All right, probably 1,300 square feet.
Mhm.
$43,000. Wish I still had it, but that's the way it
Mhm.
goes. We're now living in what we like to call a 4-story home here in Twin Peaks. We have a walk-in storage facility under the house, under the first floor. First floor is 2 bedrooms, master bedroom and bath and so forth. Second floor is the living room, kitchen, another bedroom and bathroom. And the fourth floor is a loft overlooking the living room. And it's got to be 1,500 square feet. And our cats love it. Now, let's see. So the providing, it hasn't changed from my father's day when he was of the age, I think 23, 24, 25, when they bought that house that I was born and raised in at 28,000. And of course, salaries were much lower. And that's just the monetary aspect of it. Not to mention dividing his time of sorts between each one of the six of us and my mother and himself. I don't know that that was a big thing when he was growing up and raising the family where you took time for yourself. Now, maybe that was something they learned in Marriage Encounter. But that particular dynamic has got to play, in a manner of speaking, wreak havoc because he's just trying to do the best he can. I wrote a song actually called I'm doing the best I can. I'm a good man doing the best I can. Can you talk to us about that particular dynamic and how you deal with that in whether it be your counseling or even in your book in terms of helping men to understand that they are okay, they are doing the best that they can. They need to, so to speak, be proud of that fact and know that it's going to be okay.
Well, I think the first step is really acknowledging what you described, which I do talk about a lot with the, workshop participants or clients that I'm working with, that there's so much pressure on men to provide. It's massive pressure. And, I'm not a man, so I'm just speaking from my own experience, from what I witnessed, what I've read, what I've studied, and what I do, again, witness with the couples, especially the couples that I work with, but also if it's a single man that I'm working with. Yeah. And there's just a lot of pressure. And I think because it's kind of like in the drinking water, as we say, it can be hard to recognize. So the first step is really recognizing that that actually is the case and that is the pressure that men feel. And I think unfortunately, there's a lot of women that don't know that don't understand it and take it for granted. And, is it all women? No. Am I stereotyping women and men? I'm not intending to, but there definitely are examples of women that feel like their, in this case, male partners aren't doing enough. They should come home and take care of the, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids. They should, spend more time with us on the weeknights, on whatever the complaints are. They're not bathing the kids. They're, I'm doing it all as, the mother at home. Yes. And like, what would life be like if your partner, in this case, male partner, let's say, because that's what we're talking about, wasn't out in the world working, wasn't providing for your family? There's just this disconnect and separation. And really what it requires is like opening your eyes, each of the people, everyone, opening their eyes and seeing what the pressure is and what the expectations are that men are trying to meet, often unspoken, although sometimes very much spoken in families. You will become a doctor, a lawyer, and provide for your family. Like the pressure is on. But I think there's, I've worked with a lot of couples where I'm really wanting the woman who is home, raising the children and doing that hard work, and sometimes also working at the same time. But I really want them to really get what their partners are doing for the family. And that, if they want to come home and sit on the couch on Saturday or go for a run or go play golf or go be with their friends, like, yes, they also need a break. Everybody needs a break. Yeah. There tends to be not enough support in the system. The truth is, with two parents, often with, family that doesn't live nearby. And, we're not living in tribal villages where, lots of community and family members are available for help. And so that, sometimes couples end up splitting up because they just don't have enough support. And they're blaming each other because each one of them is exhausted and can't really appreciate what the other person is doing to contribute to the family. That's sad to me.
It is very much so. And of course, you hit the number on the head. 6, my 2 older sisters, 2 younger sisters, and my brother and I in that small little house and 1 bathroom. And thankfully, we all survived. Yes. And we are going to give equal time, if you will, to the ladies here in just a moment as we continue here with Robyn Vogel and Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing here on Tell Me Your Story. We're talking about new paradigms for a new world, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. I'm Reverend Dr. D. She is Robyn Vogel, and it is Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing. And there are also the same stereotypes. I shouldn't say stereotypes. There are also the same expectations of the women and their role. And as I have grown into my 40s, 50s, and now I'm in the latter half of my 60s, I'll be 66 in June, I just don't have the same mindset of what a relationship is supposed to be. And maybe partly due to my father, and I'm grateful for that. I have no problem doing the laundry. I have no problem doing the dishes. Matter of fact, the only reason that we switched from me hand washing, which again I did not have a problem, it's what I did when I was a kid growing up. Okay, two of the six of us would be paired up every week, and one would set the table, the other one would clear it, and the two of them would wash the dishes. It's a no-brainer. We switched to the dishwasher because it uses less water. I don't mind doing those things, vacuuming, sweeping up, because I like a clean place just like the next person. But that's sort of the expectation in one sense, and there are still men who have that expectation, and obviously they weren't born with it. They were taught it, that this is what the woman does and this is what the man does. And I sit here thinking about it in terms of those stereotypes, saying, wait a minute, I thought this was a team, that they were on the same team, not on different teams, that kind of thing. I can honestly say that, yes, my parents had disagreements, but I don't recall them ever arguing in front of us. I mean, I might hear from a distance in my mother and father are talking in the kitchen, and my mother, oh, Les, I might hear that, and then it would go down and they would chat some more and what have you. But never heard one of these arguments and screaming and yelling, and that kind of thing, doors slamming and that type of thing. But what about the converse expectations of women? Because again, in addition to a lot of the other stuff that I'm referred to that's been talked about for the last 10 or 11 years, but obviously long before that, but it's really made the news. There are other expectations. I think about a biblical passage from Genesis where it says that she was made as a helpmate, not as a slave. Okay. And I tell my wife, especially in this period where she's struggling a little bit, but she's still doing, I bought her a lighter vacuum cleaner because not so she can vacuum, but because she wants to. She's upstairs now, for dinner. She started cooking dinners again, which is great. And I said, I'm happy for you and me. I think it's fantastic. She's in her element when she's doing that. She loves to cook. But she doesn't have to, because I can too. I mean, yeah, frozen dinners, sure, but I can make things too. I can follow a recipe. Talk to us about the struggles and challenges as you have seen them in your counseling, with the expectations placed on women, as again the comparison to what you talked about earlier as far as the expectations put on men.
Yeah, it's I want to say, and this is maybe my bias,
Okay.
it's even more challenging for women because we moved from the mothers staying home and raising children and not working. Now, some people are still doing that. Some people are able to do that. They don't need financially to have a job. They worked it out with their partners that one was going to go out and work and the other was going to stay home with the kids. Both very challenging and taxing and, and also wonderful. But when that's not the case, the mother is often raising children, being the sort of primary, especially when the children are much younger, and also working at the same time, and sometimes full-time, and having someone else raise their children and feeling, in my opinion, that that's okay, but inside there's something that doesn't feel okay. Yeah. Because as a woman, we have this innate, organic part of ourselves that is mother, that is nurturing, that is holding, that is part of why we're here. Yeah. To create life and nurture it and move it forward. Mm-hmm. And when we have to split ourselves off from that and go to work and work 60 hours it takes a toll.
Yeah.
It takes a toll on emotionally, it takes a toll psychically, spiritually. It's really challenging. And I want to add one more piece to it. If we look at the feminine energy and the masculine energy, not based on biology,
Hmm.
but just the masculine energy of doing and accomplishing and problem solving and fixing and holding the container, wonderful energy that we all require. We look at the feminine energy, which is more like the flow of the river, just relaxing, letting it go, letting it flow, being with sort of the organic
Hmm.
movement. In the Western culture, we've really had to let go of that as women. Really, much of the time, we are not able to be in our natural rhythms and our natural flow. And that creates dis-ease. I'm not saying it creates disease and illness and
Right.
etc., but it creates dis-ease
Hmm.
in the feminine being.
Hmm.
And so it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge, one, just sort of living and perpetuating this lifestyle, to be quote unquote successful in the Western culture, but it's also a real pressure and situation that comes up between the couple when it comes to intimate connection, because those polarities of the masculine and feminine really need to coexist because they create the polarity that people want. And yeah, there's been a lot of, like, in my world, in my practice, a lot of re-education for couples to try to shift it. And what comes to me is what I often will invite couples to do, which is take a partner dance class
Mm.
as sort of a homework assignment. Like, go take a waltz class where one is leading and one is only following.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost all the time, the man will say, I can't lead because she won't let me. And it's like, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's, but if you can really get into that practice,
Hmm.
that's a beautiful dynamic that
Yeah.
exists naturally in nature.
Robyn Vogel, my guest here on the program. Tell me your story, New Paradigms for a New World. Her book, Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing. ComeBackToLove.com will be linked to that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Reverend Dr. D here with Robyn Vogel. And how did you get started in all of this? Not only as far as I need to write a book. I need to put this down on paper or whatever. By the way, I was typing away on my computer one day and everything was coming out white because I ran out of ink. Ha ha ha. How did you get all started, not only in the book, but in terms of being interested in and wanting to help individuals and couples to better, I'll put it this way, to move out of survival mode into thrival mode?
Nice. Nice way to put it. Well, my lived experience, to be honest. I mean, like I mentioned, I lived through a pretty significant trauma as a very young child. My mother was sick when I was 6 years old. She died when I was 10 years old. It impacted me in a really big way. My family didn't talk about it. They didn't actually tell us about it when she was sick. So there was like multiple levels and layers of kind of trauma and confusion. And it impacted me, and so much so that I did have a marriage and two amazing children, and ended up getting divorced after about 14 years together. And then just some other just challenges, repeated patterns in relationship because my heart was so protected from what had happened. And in my own healing and becoming a psychotherapist, which, also wasn't an accident because I was doing my own healing, and I didn't start out in this career, actually. I started someplace else, but I was doing my own healing, studied counseling, and just really got that I understood from the inside out, the struggles and the challenges with the protection, the closed up and closed down heart, and what was required to do my own healing and to come back to love with myself. I had a lot of self-worth issues. When a mother leaves and departs in whatever way that she does when we're young, there can be this misbelief that something's wrong. Something must be wrong with me or she would have stayed. And so I worked through that eventually when I finally understood that was sort of playing beneath the surface in my life. And the healing has been tremendous. And I started bringing it to my clients, just what I brought to myself. And I want to tell one funny story, and that is that
Mhm.
I was my ex-husband and I did a lot of counseling together, leading up to the divorce, during the divorce, after the divorce. And one day we were walking out of the session. We had been working with a couple, so it was a couple with us. So there were four of us in the room. We were walking out and we were just chatting outside their office one day. And he said, you should do this work. And I sort of had a double take and said, what do you mean? And he said, you should do this work of relationship. You're really good at it and you know it like very deeply. And I took that really seriously and shifted my focus at that point and started studying couples, counseling specifically. I did some divorce mediation training because it's so helpful to work with couples when you study mediation. And yeah, that brought me to where I am today.
I had going through my divorce, which I think it went on from May 1st, when I was served at my place of employment, until the final decree came through in the mail, stamped January 21st, 22nd, whatever, not one memorable date that I care to remember per se. I remember just thinking, I just want out. I mean, I've had enough and I just want out. So I went to this a woman attorney, and I loved her slogan. It was fantastic. Reasonable solutions for reasonable people. But of course, in divorce, you're not dealing with
That's right.
reasonable people. Anyway, I sat down with her and I laid out, here's what I'd like to offer as part of the settlement. And I laid it all out. We had no real assets other than the house. And I presented that. And of course, her attorney, who is a male, and I found out over the months that I didn't need to be told because I could see it. He was one of those snakes, And what was really frustrating was what was it, like 9 months? Yeah, about 9, because January, February, yeah. The proposal I put forth in May of that year was exactly the same set of stipulations that were in the divorce decree, and $3,600 later. And there was a part of me that thought, I should have fought for this or that or the other. It was a community property state, split the debts, split the assets, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted out. Do you find that in a lot of instances, it's more because they can't bear to leave this person, even if it is in this combative dynamic, rather than in my case? I mean, I still love the woman. I wish her the best. I wish her well and happiness and success in whatever she chooses to do. I can't stay here anymore. I want out. And I didn't care how, and I thank God it didn't take 12 months, but nonetheless, do you find people that they have trouble cutting the cord, so to speak, because of not so much the comfortableness, but the familiarity?
For sure. I mean, it's very hard to make that decision. It's a very serious decision to make. And that is a lot of what I impart, because it can be easy to feel like, well, the grass is greener. This is hard. We've worked on this for a long time, if you have. And, let's just separate. And I always like to really slow that down, because it's a huge decision, especially if there's kids. Even if there's not, but really if there's children, like, that is not a decision to take quickly, in my opinion.
Well, even if there aren't kids, the packing is hell, let me tell you.
Yes. The packing.
What do you get to keep and all of that?
That's right. Yeah. How are you going to divide up the things that you've shared? The house, maybe the house that you bought together, or the, second home that you bought together, all the things that you have, the friends that you have, the family that you've connected with. I mean, even if you don't have kids together, it's a massive dismantling.
Yeah.
And it's very, very challenging. And I work with a lot of couples that are just deciding or can't decide. It's called discernment. And I slow, if they don't want, it's hard to slow down, but I say, if you're working with me, we are going to slow this down to like an ant's pace, because I really want, this to be taken very thoughtfully and intentionally and kindly if
Yeah.
it can be.
Yeah. I'm not looking for any numbers, but what would you say is the percentage of couples that come to you on the verge who maybe turn it around? And I know it may not be a very high percentage because some people they're just dead set. We're done. We're done. We're done. We're done. I don't care what we say here. We're done.
Yeah, of course it's a bias group, right? Because if they come to discernment or they come to just couples therapy, there are at least one of them for sure is invested in working on the relationship and trying to make a very clear choice. The other might have already have both feet out the door, but if they choose to come, there is a little bit of a window, right? So it's a little bit of a bias group. But I would say like more often than not, something gets turned around
Mm.
because they haven't had the space to really sit down and look at each other.
And isn't it a matter of perspective more than anything else?
Yes.
One of the analogies I use is there's an event taking place inside this circle. And I want you to step on a point on the circle and look at it and then move to another point to get a broader perspective of that event in the middle of the circle.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think life is about perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, literally every single thing and everything you experience and every choice you make, to reference your book, um, is it's all perspective. One person can see a sky as blue and with, some clouds, and another person looks at the sky and says, "Oh my God, it's so cloudy, it's about to rain."
Yeah.
That perspective and that mindset and that belief impacts your life.
Yeah.
All the individual choices, whether you're going to choose to come back to love and see the blue sky and beauty and take it in, or see that it's going to rain and your whole day is going to be ruined. Those are
Mm.
two very different experiences to have.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I again, I know that you are not in the habit of handing out blame to either of the participants. However, there is a certain level of responsibility that each of them has got to acknowledge. They chose to get into this relationship, however many months or years ago it was. You made this choice. This is not on her. This is on you or him. This is on you. I loved, there was a gentleman who had this Maximum Marriage series. This was back in the late 80s. And I think I still have the tape series, believe it or not. I also, I also found out that the guy subsequently was divorced. I don't know if he's still alive today, but I know that in the course of time, he ended up getting divorced. But he had this one example. It was a wonderful and humorous sort of example where the couple comes in and they sit down and the husband is just sitting there and he's listening and the wife is ripping him a new one. I mean, just going nuts about how awful he was and so forth. And so and this guy, he lets her say her piece and of course offers him the opportunity. No, I really don't have anything to say. And he puts forth this equation, if you will, or this statement. He says, "Okay, one of you has to start this process of talking about this and working through this, and so forth. And I'm going to tell you which one of you has to start." And he looked at both of them and said, "You." Didn't point to the husband or the wife. It was they both had to start. Do you find one is blocked? So I'm just here because I know where it's going and I'm just going to go through the motions, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a hard nut to crack, so to speak?
It is and it isn't. It's really about trust. When one is really open and wants to be there and sort of dragged their partner, um, with the other partner, the one that feels dragged and not so open, what they need to hear from me, which is genuine coming from me, is that I don't have an agenda, that I'm in support of them as much as I'm in support of the other, and that they can trust me, that I have their best interest in mind without a forced expectation.
However it comes out.
However it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, each person chose to be in the relationship, and there's a co-creation that happened, and sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't need to force that pill down right when I meet, with you.
Right.
But it's and also I don't pretend to be the expert on anybody's life. I mean, we all came here to do what we came to do. We all have our own karma and karmic patterns, and whatever they are, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to support like open, healthy, direct, honest conversation, and that each person has the capacity to live their best lives, whatever that is,
Mm-hmm.
together, apart, together and apart, whatever it's like.
And you've touched upon this in regards to the next question that I would like to put forth, and conversation we'll have here, and that is your own personal faith, your own personal philosophy when it comes to dealing with other human beings who are struggling through this particular dynamic as we're talking, so that they can come back to love. Even if it means they go their separate ways. Because I've heard over and over again, I've even heard of couples who have married and divorced multiple times to each other.
Yes, me too.
That's got to be expensive as hell. But anyway, but what about that? What about your perspective when people come in or you talk with them and so forth? Where does that come from? How did you start out your life, and how has that changed over the years?
Well, let's see. There's a few questions in there. One is that when I'm working, if it's with a couple and they're in this space that we were just talking about, the comeback to love is opening up to compassion for the other person and the other person's experience. It doesn't mean agreeing with them. Right. This is not about agreeing. Often when couples come into therapy, they're like, okay, I'm right, right? Tell him I'm right. Tell her and I'm like, not my business. And I don't agree. It's like, that's a perspective. This is another perspective. And it's not about convincing the other person to agree with you. It's about listening. And this, I'm not saying this is simple at all, because this is actually very high level. And there's a lot of tools and a lot of methods and practices that I teach in order to get to this place. But where we're headed, hopefully, is a place of compassion. Like, oh, I don't agree with you, but I can understand why such and such, right? Yeah. I see how you've taken that in, and I get that. I can understand it. I don't agree. Fine. You don't need to agree. That's not what we're going for. Yeah. So that's in terms of the relational, piece. I think that answers your question in terms of how we invite, and that's come back to love. Yeah. Right there.
And not asking your perspective on this, but I'm just curious, in the last 10 or 11 years that you've been doing this, and I use that time frame
loosely,
has politics played a role in a lot of these situations? Well, he voted for so-and-so, and she voted for so-and-so, and I just can't deal with, because we've seen a lot of relationships severed, families estranged from one another because, and I use the term very loosely, because of politics.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's one of those, I feel like, where the rubber meets the road in terms of the practice of come back to love. Because referencing what I just said, it's not about agreeing. Yeah. It's about understanding or having compassion for the way the person is understanding the political agenda, or the whoever is speaking, or whatever's happening here in the world, here in the US or other places in the world. Everybody is filtering the information through their own life, their own experience, their own history, their ancestors, their own philosophies. I mean, so many things. Yeah. And I have a good friend and we have different viewpoints on some things. And when she took the time to explain to me like how she's thinking about things and what she's reading and who she's listening to, I actually went and I listened and I read some of the things and I said to her, I totally understand your choice.
Hmm.
And I really honestly can say, like 100% genuinely, that I do.
Yeah.
Because if I was listening to that and reading, I would have made the same choice.
Hmm.
Happens to be I'm listening to something else and I'm reading something else, so I have a different choice. But it wasn't about making her wrong. It was like, I really got it.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, again, I'm not like patting myself on the back, but I will say it's high level because it does require like an openness to really deeply listening and not having your own opinion or agenda and trying to make someone else wrong.
My brother, who lives in Vietnam with his partner, is a new father at 64. I think he's 64 years old.
Wow. Go him.
And he and you talk about dynamics. He was sharing with us in the text in our group text to the family that he was not allowed. Vietnamese in Vietnam, the husband is not allowed in the delivery room. Period.
Mm,
Okay, no family members are allowed in the delivery room.
sad.
But then there was a point at which he texted that we now have the room to ourselves, the three of us, that kind of thing. And of course, the boy is healthy and doing well and everything. And I just, and now my brother and I, the reason I bring him up is because following my eldest sister's memorial, for three, I can, it's like after you get past the first couple of years, you forget how long ago it was, but it was in this decade. In any event, we were having one of those conversations. And I began immediately to realize, oh, we're on different ends of this political spectrum. And at that point, I said to myself, it doesn't matter how this conversation ends. He's your brother. You love him. You're proud of him for what he's accomplished. And, end of story. Now, when we got to the end of the conversation, we actually agreed on three things that needed to be dealt with. Maybe not how, which wasn't relevant, but that there were three things that needed to be dealt with. Well, in addition to those three, he's my brother. We grew up under the same roof with the same parents and sisters, and all of that. All of the similarities that bring us together. And there's just no way that I'm going to sit there and drive a wedge because he chose to vote for so and so and I chose to vote for so and so.
Yeah.
Who frickin' cares? Do you know that 100 years from now, no one probably is going to even remember either of our names? I hope that's not the case because I'm hoping that the programs that we're doing hopefully stay up on the internet for a while. But my point is that people come to you and they're looking to go in particular direction, and you're trying to bring them back to love and heal the relationship. Even if the relationship they go separate ways, at least maybe they can be amicable.
Yes.
I mean, I've even heard of couples who get divorced. They do live separate lives in separate dwellings and so forth, with or without kids, and then of course you've got the custody thing too, and yet they still hang out together from time to time
Sure. Yeah.
because the friendship, the connection that they had as married couple.
Oop, I can't hear you anymore.
All right, there we go. Can you hear me now? Testing one,
You're
two.
back. I think you're back.
All right.
Yes, I can.
All right, let me mark that so I can edit that and clean it up. So my point is that there are people who they make the commitment to the relationship on a different level
Hmm.
than where they were when they come to
Yes,
you. And I would hope that you have some success in that particular area.
absolutely. I had my own divorce, similar to what you just described. We have a friendship. We have a really good co-parenting relationship. Me, my ex-husband and his wife. My kids have a wonderful stepmother. And the three of us have been an incredible team for many years now, 21 years, raising our two children. They have a third child
Mhm.
together. And I am a huge proponent of inspiring others to have that similar experience. There isn't any reason, I mean, somebody might disagree with that. And I have worked with couples that have experienced betrayal and they even stay together because of the work we
Mm.
do together.
Mm.
So, it's important. It's like, it's our hearts. You said a couple of times, like, I love my first wife. I want good things for her. Of
Yeah.
course, this person was a major impact on my
Mm.
life for me and I'm sure for you, given the time frame, at a
Yeah.
very poignant time in our lives and contributed to our growth and our development. And
I
I'm
mean,
nothing but grateful.
yeah. I don't want to say that I still hurt over this, but I still deal with the fact that when her parents, within 4 months of each other, passed away,
Mm.
I heard nothing
Well,
until 2 or 3 years later that I just happened to call her and she told me. Now, I didn't jump all over her saying, well, why didn't somebody get a hold of me? I mean, I'm in the book, I'm available,
yeah,
and so forth and so on. Well, it happens.
it does.
But yeah, and I remember my lawyer telling me that you are lucky that you, on the one hand, you stayed together for 15 years, although that extra 5 years it didn't, but he said it might hurt you because if you ended it at 10, it might have been a little different scenario. Well, it was the scenario that it was going to be, and she was free, I was free. She's now able to do whatever it is that she chooses to, and so am I.
Yes.
Um, but I also think too about the future with my present wife. We're experiencing some wonderful things. I mean, just the ability to buy a house in this day and age, so to speak. In California, let alone any place else, and to
Mm.
do some of the things. Do you know that? I mean, these are the things too. I'm curious as to whether you're able to even go here in these kinds of conversations with your clients in terms of counting your blessings, not so much of the other person, but just as an individual. What are some of the good things?
Of
You know,
course, yeah. We spend
obviously
a
you
lot.
can bring up all the bad stuff right now, but well,
Yeah. Yeah, we spend a lot of time counting the blessings, especially when we're looking at discernment and, which way people should go. And even if they're not, having not to be cliche, but having an attitude of gratitude is really, really important. Again, it changes your moment and each
yeah.
moment changes your life.
Yeah, those books that I'm reading, they reference that quite a bit throughout the book in terms of the ability to be open to the wonderful things that this world has to offer, and putting out the gratitude, the thanks. We had a wonderful event happen yesterday, as of this conversation, and totally unexpected. And I just looked at that going, wow. And I thank the universe, God, what have you. Uh,
Hmm.
and it makes a whole big difference. I mean, it made a big difference in both my wife's and my demeanor. Not that we were walking around here with our jaws on the ground. Oh, sad. No, still very optimistic. But it's like when something like that happens, it just gives you that much more excitement and energy and anticipation of, okay, well, what's next? What's the next exciting thing? And for you, what is the next exciting thing? Do you have another book coming out, or are you working on anything in that regard?
Well, it's a great place to end this conversation with because I don't have a book coming out quite yet because
Uh-huh.
this just was published 3 months ago. Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing. Again, you can find it on Amazon, like you said, or really any place you buy books online.
Mm-hmm.
But I am really excited to share that I'll be teaching and leading a retreat at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health. That's in Western Massachusetts. It's a very well-known yoga and personal growth retreat center. I'm
Mm.
also teaching at the Omega Institute in August, at the end of August, another very well known, held in high esteem retreat center where there are lots of teachers sharing their gifts with the people that come. And I'm really, really excited about both of those two retreats and sharing my work. And both of the retreats are really focused on looking at how the past has wired your body and your brain to have the life that you're living, and looking at, where's the gratitude and
Hmm.
what you want to what needs to shift in order to live with a wide open heart and really have the love and the connection and the intimacy that you're craving.
Yeah. The thing I love, especially about these two books, is the reference to the fact that there's more than enough to go around. Doesn't matter what
Yes,
you're talking about, there's more than enough because no two people want exactly the same thing.
that's
Yeah,
right.
we all breathe oxygen, but there's plenty for all of us to breathe. I
Yeah.
love this part. Talk about connection. We're all connected in this lifetime. Yeah, well, we're all connected to the lifetimes on this planet. There was a scientific study done of the cells or molecules of oxygen, H2O, right? And it was sort of like doing a what do they call it? A carbon dating. And they were actually able to determine that the atoms and the cells within oxygen have been around for millions of years. So not only are you and I breathing, if you will, the same air. You're in Massachusetts. I'm here. It'll take a long time for the molecules to exchange, but we have been breathing the same air, if you will, the same molecules as our ancestors, as all of the people who have come, and all of the animals, and including the plants, the trees in particular, like they take in the CO2 and then they put out the oxygen. So they're
Mm.
converting or transforming the CO2 into oxygen in their own way through, I think it's photosynthesis. I think that's right. But
Mhm.
anyway, what little I remember from biology.
Right.
But it's just amazing how, and I'll share this one last thing in terms of choices. Think about right now a choice that you made as a child. Just
Mm.
don't have to tell me what it is. And I can think of one too. Those two choices, the one you made, the one I made, believe it or not, have brought you and I here right now having this conversation. Now, it
Mm.
seems a little far fetched, but
I love it.
it's like maybe one of those Rube Goldberg machines or the dominoes that people set up and then they hit it brrr, going around. It's that kind of experience. It's like, wow. Now, where do you want to be down the road in the future? It's all about choices. I love one of my guests said, yeah, well, just remember that's true. And the choices that you make now are based upon your perception of what you think the future will be.
Mm. Yeah, very
And I
true.
know a lot of people are into the end of the world. I'm not there. I'm thinking, no, this
No.
is just the beginning. This is a great place to live, planet Earth,
Hmm.
as well as where we each individually live. And there's just so much more that we can do and have and be. And I thank you for being a part of that.
Mm. Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate you having me on your show and getting to know you and having this conversation. It was really beautiful.
I have three final questions I ask all of my guests. I'm going to ask you, but before I do, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. And we're streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and we're on YouTube and Rumble where you can watch these conversations. And please click subscribe and notification. We hope that you also can pick up a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. And we hope that you will also leave us a tip. We have a tip jar. It's called PayPal. And we also use Zelle. I think it's Zelle or Zella, however it's pronounced, And you can put in my email address if you'd like to send it direct, richard@richarddugan.com. And we hope that you'll drop me a line as well at that same email address. Again, richard@richarddugan.com. And finally, we hope that you will take the time during this, the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to and follow the promptings of that still, small voice. With all that being said, we go to our final three questions for a very special guest. And the first of those questions is, who is Robyn Vogel?
Robyn Vogel is the founder and the practitioner and the embodiment of love.
What gets you up in the morning?
Beautiful. I'm one of those people that wakes up really happy and excited about the day. Some people would want to probably smack me about that. I love my work. I love my life. It didn't start out very well, 50 years ago, but my life is amazing at the age of 60 and gets better and better each year. I'm happy to get out of bed every morning.
Well, to that end, the final question is, what was your best day?
My best day? Oh my goodness. That is because I am one who has had better and better days every single year of my life. That is a difficult question. However, there was one day, and since we're short of time, I will keep it very quick, that I was in a meditation and my mother and my father came to me energetically. And my experience was like a pouring of liquid love into my being, my energy field, my body. And I felt love in a way that I have never, ever felt it before. And I have never, ever felt it since. And although we've been saying here that love is an action and a verb, yes, for when you're on the planet and living life, but this spiritual experience that I had, this sort of awakening moment that I had, that was beyond anything that I could comprehend. And I would say that was a really good day.
Wonderful. I have conversations with my dad all the time, and it's really kind of cool. I still wish I could pick up the phone, but I can always play the interview of the two of them that I did about 11 years ago and listen to his voice. So that's very cool. Love to have those kinds of connections. Well, again, I thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. To my brother Mike, congratulations, Dad. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.